Deep in a humid bamboo forest, one man sets out to build a secure wilderness camp before the heavy rains arrive. The dense, wet vegetation and saturated soil dictate every structural choice he will make today.
Que caiu aí, ó. O tempo tá fechado.
Navigating this terrain requires pushing through towering stalks and tangled vines. Bamboo groves offer an endless supply of building materials, but their tightly packed root systems make clearing a level footprint difficult. Finding a natural clearing near a water source is the first priority. Dry palm fronds provide excellent tinder, a critical resource when the humidity clings to everything. For the main structural elements, green bamboo is superior. It bends under stress without snapping, offering a resilience that dead wood lacks. He tests the flexibility of a long pole, ensuring it can bear the wind and weight of a heavy downpour. Using simple cordage, he begins lashing the vertical supports. Tying tight knots in a damp environment requires securing the tension before the fibers absorb moisture and swell. The vertical columns must be perfectly aligned. A stable frame relies on transferring the downward load directly into the earth. By utilizing the natural flexibility of the green bamboo, the shelter will sway slightly in high winds rather than breaking. With the skeleton raised, the next defense is a waterproof barrier. Draping a heavy-duty tarp over the bamboo frame instantly creates a dry microclimate. He pulls the synthetic material taut across the ridge. A loose roof acts like a sail, catching gusts and collecting heavy pools of rainwater that can collapse the entire structure. Tension is everything. Securing the corners low to the ground prevents updrafts from tearing the fabric away. Inside, the space transforms. The bright LED light illuminates a secure haven against the darkening forest. He lays down a patterned cloth to create a clean sleeping area, elevating the sleeping surface or insulating it from the bare earth is essential to retain body heat. Even in tropical environments, damp ground quickly leaches warmth away from the body, turning a cool night into a dangerous situation. The timing is perfect. Heavy drops begin to pummel the canopy, testing the tautness of the synthetic roof. The sloped design sheds the water instantly, directing the runoff safely away from the living space. Inside, the air remains perfectly dry. With the immediate rain threat handled, he clears the floor of decaying organic matter. Wet leaves harbor insects and retain moisture, accelerating the rot of any gear left on the ground. To further reinforce the camp, he shapes heavy wooden stakes. Striking the bamboo with precise angles creates a sharp, beveled point. A properly carved stake drives cleanly into dense, root-choked soil without splintering under the force of a mallet. These anchors will lock the shelter in place, ensuring the unpredictable winds of the storm cannot uproot his work. Off the muddy ground, gear stays dry and organized. He constructs a slatted surface by fitting thin, split bamboo rails across a sturdy frame. Splitting the hollow stalks lengthwise produces strong, flat planks that rest perfectly flush. He trims the excess overhang, leaving a clean edge. This simple elevation changes the geometry of the camp, providing a clean workspace for food preparation well above the splashing mud. But a secure camp is only half the battle. Surviving out here requires calories, because the heavy rains have turned the local streams murky and turbulent. Traditional hook and line fishing is nearly impossible. The fish cannot see the bait in the swollen currents. To secure a meal, he must shift tactics and rely on a casting net in the muddy tributary.
Pessoal, aqui já tá tudo no jeito. Eu vou aproveitar que a chuva deu uma passada. Vou pegar minha tarrafinha. A pesca hoje, pessoal, vai ser de tarrafa, porque tá chovendo bastante para cá esses últimos dias aí. E como a nossa pescaria é na água salgada, tem muito enxurro de água doce agora na cabeceira, né? Então é meio complicado a gente pegar peixe de anzol. Então eu trouxe aqui uma tarrafinha, vou pegar ela aqui e a gente vai estar indo lá fazer a nossa pescaria. Vamos lá antes que chova de novo.
The wildlife senses the shifting pressure in the atmosphere. Navigating to the river means pushing through dense overgrowth and deep, saturated mud. Every step is calculated to avoid turning an ankle on the slick, hidden root systems below. The tributary is thick with silt washed down from the higher elevations. The opaque brown water hides the submerged snags that can easily tear a delicate mesh net. Throwing a cast net requires precise rotational momentum. The lead weights sewn into the skirt must flare out perfectly to cover the maximum surface area before sinking to the muddy bottom. As the net settles, it creates a dome, trapping anything feeding in the shallows. He hauls the heavy, wet cordage back to the bank. The muddy environment favors bottom feeders and small river species that rely on scent rather than sight to find food. Extracting the catch requires patience. The sharp pectoral spines of local catfish can easily puncture a hand, leading to a severe infection in this humid environment. Another, perfectly timed cast throws the weighted ring across the current. The Hevaisruns have pushed the fish closer to the banks to escape the churning debris of the main channel. Despite the murky conditions, the repetitive castings slowly yields a steady supply of small, vital protein.
Trovejou, pessoal, tá trovejando. Toró vai cair. Tamanho do bag.
Working the net in these conditions is a heavy, muddy chore. Every pull drags the weight of the water and the thick river sludge. Carefully, he untangles the small silver bodies from the nylon mesh. Placing them onto the drying clay of the bank prevents them from sliding back into the turbid water. Small fish like these are often overlooked, but in a survival scenario, they represent crucial calories. The dark river mud coats his arms, acting as a temporary barrier against the relentless swarms of biting insects that thrive near stagnant water. Sorting the haul on the cracked clay, he decides what is worth keeping to fry.
Isso aqui eu vou soltar, pessoal, muito pequeno. Agora esse bagrinho aqui eu vou levar. Agora tem mais duas bagrinhas aqui, ó.
A handful of small river fish is a hard-won victory against the rising current. It provides enough fat and protein to rebuild the energy spent on the shelter and the trek, but the atmosphere above is darkening rapidly. The low, rumbling thunder signals an incoming squall, and the sky bruises with heavy, moisture-laden clouds. Being caught exposed in a flash downpour plummets the core body temperature quickly. Recognizing the shift in the weather, he gathers the harvest. Out here, safety lasts only as long as awareness does. It is time to retreat to the dry haven of the camp.
Pessoal, esse aqui é o suficiente para fazer o nosso frito. Vamos lá que tá trovejando demais. Olha o tempo aí como é que tá, ó. Tá formando uma chuva aí, galera. Eu acredito que antes de chegar no acampamento vai dar uma chuva. Pessoal, já tô seguindo aqui no rumo do nosso acampamento. Olha como tá de chuva, pessoal, lá atrás, ó. Formando bacana.
The sky finally breaks, unleashing a torrential downpour. The forest floor immediately turns into a slick, treacherous path of mud and rushing water. Navigating the dense undergrowth in low visibility requires deliberate footing. An uprooted tree blocks the trail, a massive obstacle in the slippery terrain. Its wet, mossy bark offers zero traction. Moving carefully over these massive trunks prevents a devastating slip, preserving precious energy for the fire that must be built once back at the shelter.
Olha. Vamos descer aqui.
Back near the camp, a shallow, clear stream provides the perfect sanitation station. Preparing food away from the main shelter keeps the smell of fish from attracting scavengers in the night. He establishes a clean workspace directly on the muddy bank, utilizing a smooth wooden board. Scraping the scales from a small fish requires a firm grip and a sharp edge, working from the tail to the head. Removing the scales prevents a gritty texture when pan frying, and thoroughly washing the meat in the flowing water ensures no river sediment remains. The cold water also keeps the flesh firm before it hits the hot oil. He divides the cleaned catch into uniform pieces. Precision with the blade ensures that the cuts are even, which is crucial for cooking over an unpredictable wood fire. Thick chunks will remain raw in the center while the outside burns, but thin, even slices fry quickly and completely. He transfers the prepared fillets to a clean metal plate, keeping them elevated from the wet earth. In a humid jungle, bacteria multiply rapidly on raw meat, so the transition from the cleaning station to the searing heat of the fire must be immediate. The difficult labor of the day is finally about to yield its reward. The crackling heat of the small fire drives back the damp chill of the evening. A sharp knife makes quick work of an onion on the wooden board, releasing aromatics that will flavor the hot oil. Heating the oil in the metal pot until it bubbles lightly ensures the ingredients will sear rather than soak up grease. Pouring the dry rice directly into the hot oil toasts the grains, a technique that locks in flavor and prevents them from clumping into a mushy paste. As he adds water, the rapid boil immediately cooks the starches. Managing a small, efficient fire requires constant attention to the fuel. Too much wood chokes the oxygen, while too little loses the rolling boil. Once the rice is fluffy and fully cooked, he sets it aside to focus on the main protein. Returning the hot pan to the coals, he drops the seasoned fish into the sizzling oil. The high heat creates an instant crust on the flesh, sealing in the moisture. Frying over an open flame is a delicate balance of managing the embers and listening to the crackle of the oil to know exactly when to flip the catch.
Agora eu vou passar aqui o peixe no óleo, meu povo.
Darkness claims the dense bamboo, and the relentless rain continues to fall outside the perimeter of the blue tarp. Inside the dry microclimate, a hot meal is finally ready. Fresh, acidic tomatoes cut through the heavy richness of the fried fish and starchy rice. Suspended in the hammock, he is completely insulated from the wet, heat-sapping ground below. Eating a high-calorie meal right before sleep fuels the body's internal furnace, generating the necessary warmth to comfortably endure the cool, damp night. A simple camp has become a functional refuge against the elements. The final task of the day is adjusting the suspension system of the hammock. Proper tension keeps the fabric flat, preventing a curved sleeping posture that strains the back over a long night. Hanging, the lantern centrally illuminates the living space and keeps nocturnal pests away. With the gear secured and a full stomach, the only remaining sound is the steady rhythm of the rain against the taut synthetic roof. It is a dry, elevated sleep perfectly separated from the muddy realities of the forest floor.
Meu povo, chegou a hora de dar aquela descansada. Coruja aí cantando, meu povo. Duas.
Dawn breaks slowly through the thick canopy, bringing with it another heavy cycle of rain. The waterproof shelter has held firm, proving its worth through the stormy night. Before venturing out again, the damp morning chill demands a fire and a hot meal.
Pessoal, a chuva já começou de novo. Tá chuviscando.
Hours later, the fragrant smell of toasted flatbread and hot coffee fills the humid air. He pours the steaming brew from an insulated thermos, a crucial comfort that quickly elevates the core temperature. Resting in the hammock beside the glowing embers, the effort of the past day reveals its value. The shelter now works with the hillside instead of against it. A dry roof, elevated floors, and heat from the fire. Instead of forcing the environment to adapt, he aligned the structure with the wet conditions. A place of absolute quiet.